to get going, I would like to introduce myself. The voice you've been hearing is that of Jonathan Pritchard. That's me talking about me in now first person. Basically, my background, I've been a keynote speaker and a presenter and a sales trainer and a whole bunch of stuff for clients like BP and State Farm, even connected with United Airlines C-suite to talked to them a couple Christmases ago. And kind of my focus is on creativity, imagination, new technology, and the power of the internet to kind of unlock your imagination and the ability to make a living without having to show up at a particular place at a particular time, which to me is one of the coolest things in human history. And also for about 2 or 3 years, I was a entrepreneurial coach for a tech incubator here in Chicago called 1871. It was voted as the #1 tech incubator in the world. And basically my job was to talk with tech entrepreneurs who are really close to their technology and all these features and isn't this cool, and then help them translate that for normal human beings to understand why it's valuable. If you have a world-changing innovation or development, but you can't explain it so that my grandma can understand it, you need some work. So a little bit about my personal background. Yes, I once put a paper bag over Nick Cannon's head to entertain Howard Stern, Heidi Klum, Mel B, and Howie Mandel on America's Got Talent. Before you ask if it aired, no, it didn't. Thanks for bringing that up, for salting that wound. Technically, like 6 months of my life, 2 seconds of it made it to air. And I see, Mike, you raised your hand. I don't know why you'd raise your hand at that, but thank you. I do appreciate that. If you have a question or anything, just go ahead and put that in the chat. That way I can read your question. I'm really bad at reading minds across the internet. Also, I learned how to juggle fire when I was 13 years old because one, I had awesome parents, and two, I grew up around interesting retired circus performers. So that's kind of my background. And I currently live in Chicago. My side hustle, no, it's kind of my co-hustle. This is what I do during the day. All the performing stuff I do at night. I never sleep. I'm basically a vampire is really what it boils down to. But all of what I do is centered around being fascinated by helping people make their dreams come true. It sounds super hokey, but that's actually what I'm super interested in. All right, so that is enough about me. I'm going to turn it over to my esteemed colleague and partner. Hey, Mike, I do see that you're raising your hand. There's a comment. There's a Q&A section where you can type in. So I can't virtually high five you through the rest of the webinar. So add it with the words. All right, so that's enough for me for now. Turning it over to you, Ashton.
Thanks, Jonathan. Your introductions are out of this world. I'm ultra boring compared to Jonathan. So if you need to fall asleep during half of the presentation, just pick mine because his will be so entertaining. In all seriousness, Jonathan is incredible. I'm a sales manager here at Thrive, and what I get to do is work with a group of marketing consultants, and ultimately we talk with hundreds of businesses a month to help them unpack their digital marketing needs and really build solutions to help them accomplish those. So I've been with Thrive about 4 years. I've had the privilege of talking with thousands of businesses during that period. And ultimately my goal for today is just to help bring maybe new insights or a fresh perspective into how you're approaching digital marketing or how you're talking about digital marketing in the middle of COVID-19. So that's me in a nutshell. Looking forward to a great presentation today, and we'll be happy to answer any questions as well. So feel free to enter those at any point. Thanks again for joining us today. Jonathan?
Awesome. So we are here today to talk about how to market in the world that we're currently in, because the world today is a lot different than it used to be. So we're going to be sharing some details and experiences that we've seen firsthand from talking with business owners and our clients as well. And that's going to basically be the focus of the conversation. So here you go, Ashton.
Fantastic. So, COVID-19. There's not many words that I could probably add to the topic that you've not already worked through yourself or heard. So, what I'm going to do is ultimately just bring your attention to a small example of how COVID-19 has impacted one of many, many businesses here in the United States. So, paragraph 3 there was a lady named Phyllis. She's in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and she had a 30-year-old small jewelry store that she had been successfully managing for quite some time. However, when COVID hit, unfortunately, what we have discovered and what many businesses have run into is when your online presence is needed, if it doesn't exist, you really are limited in what you can do as a business. So as we can see here in the 4th paragraph, a tool that we use at Thrive to help assess a site's organic presence or power. Ultimately for her site was at a 3 out of 100. And unfortunately, that meant roughly 64 people a month were finding her website, which isn't going to be able to provide her enough opportunity to stay in business the way she needs to. So Phyllis is one of many, many, many business owners who unfortunately was not set up for inevitably what hit. So it's not a situation that's unique to her. And what we like to do at Thrive is just educate and help businesses make decisions to both prevent, hiccups like this in the future when your online presence is needed more than ever, and also help to bolster already established presences so that you can earn more market share over your competitors. So that's kind of the why behind today's webinar. And Jonathan, tell us a little bit more about how this COVID situation has impacted businesses.
Well, a lot of it is that there's a lot of hearsay, a lot of, well, my cousin this and that. So let's look at the numbers, which are pretty uh, startling, right? Which is that 72,800 businesses have permanently closed in the United States since March. That to me is an incredible number. So it's just amazing to me of how big the impact is of this whole situation and how many millions of people have been affected just from the business side of the decisions that have been made. So we've got to kind of make the best of the situation that we have to deal with. And according to the latest Yelp Local Economic Impact Report, which is very difficult for me to say, more than 6,500 businesses just in Texas have permanently closed. And that breaks down to about 2,000 in Dallas by itself since the start of the pandemic. And according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, only 28.8% of Americans actually have jobs that allow them to work remotely. So it's kind of the worst of both situations, which is a lot more businesses going to the internet, but fewer than 30% of people actually have jobs that can be done entirely remotely or on the internet. So how are you going to make the most of this? And to that point, e-commerce, the number of orders has increased nearly 50% during the pandemic. I mean, my fiance and I have just blown up Amazon, and our box situation is just out of hand. And even though the demand is surging, the supply chains are thinner and thinner and more brittle now more than ever, which makes it super difficult to get your products out to the end user, to your customers. And there's also a lot more competition as more and more people are opting for more remote opportunities. It's a really challenging dynamic. And that's kind of the environment that we've seen a lot of our clients deal with, and a lot of the questions that we've gotten from folks that we talk to every day. So a big part of this is understanding kind of how you're showing up on social media, So I'm going to let you cover that, Ashton.
Thanks, Jonathan. Yeah, that information it's pretty incredible when you take a moment to let all that soak in. So yeah, with social media, I think we all can agree, for those of us social media users out there, and I am one of them. I'm more of a Facebook person myself, but I imagine we have 20 different answers to that question here on the call today. Ultimately, the reality is people are spending more time on social than ever before. News, updates, understanding, sports, politics, community, business. I mean, there's so much content on social media, and I think businesses more than ever have an opportunity to leverage the social media platforms because people are more remote, they are online, and people are looking and hungry for content that's engaging. So what social allows a business to do is to, one, just be visible, for people to know that you exist and for you to take your message to them. Second, it allows a business to showcase how they're giving to represent and you offer. And if social strategy, you need a strong organic and a paid advertising on social. It's not enough just to post or that blended strategy, because that's allows you to get the visibility and the engagement with your content. So a little bit on social media. We can talk more in depth about that on a separate call if you'd like, but and there's a ton of information on the Thrive blog as well, how social media can be effective. Jonathan?
Got it. So yeah, as Ashton was kind of saying in the robot voice, you froze up there for a second, Ashton. So they were like, is it just me? Is it no, it's good. All right. So as the social channels let you be visible, it kind of reminds you that uh, it's the old thing of if a tree falls in a forest and nobody's around to hear it, does it make a sound? It's kind of like your customers and clients can only do business with you if they know that you exist. So if they can't find you, they can't buy from you, they can't give you money in exchange for goods and services. So one of the big shifts has been more and more online sales, and folks who would normally walk to a store or drive to a store or do things in person, more and more they're doing it online. And second part of that is they're doing even more research than they used to. Because if you can walk to a store and actually pick something up and handle it and look at it, you know exactly if this is right or not. But when you're trying to do all that decision making with just a couple photos from a website, it gets real difficult to know whether this will be exactly what it is that you're looking for. So they're doing even more research, and that's why reviews and the feedback from other customers and clients are even more important today than even just 6 months ago. So there are folks out there who are looking for what it is that you do, what your business does for people. You need to tell the world about it so that they can find you because they are looking. And the one of the most valuable ways of doing that is to get to the top of the organic search results. So that's on the slide there you see SERPs. That's just a fancy way of saying search engine result position or page, whatever you want to call it. But basically it's where do you show up when Google's showing the natural results for the search phrases that somebody would use that you would hope that you show up for. So Carlos, one of our SEO managers, is basically saying that people are still placing orders and they need stuff even if they're on lockdown at home. And a lot of people still contact companies during those work hours. And that's not going to be any different just because they're sitting at home. Your competition may adjust, but that doesn't mean you have to stop everything and lose out on those sales. So SEO is great as a long-term strategy, but also you got to make some sales today. So I'm going to let Ashton talk about one of the best ways to make that happen.
How's my robot voice? Is it back to my Ashton voice, or is it
I
still
I
robotic?
can I can hear you. You're back.
Okay, fantastic. Well, One of the ways that we can get you the visibility and ultimately that Google allows you to be found by your customer is through paid advertising. So PPC is short for pay per click. Some people call it, Google Ads, paid
Paper
advertising,
paper clips.
pay per clips. We get that as well.
That's
SEM.
legit. That actually happens. That's not just a joke.
That is true. So paid advertising on the search engine can be a really, really effective way for you to get visibility and traffic quickly. Um, it's something that does make sense for a lot of businesses. Other businesses, maybe where the cost of the service or the cost for the product is small. Sometimes it's cost prohibitive and there's not an ROI there, but oftentimes it's certainly worth investigation, and we've been able to drive incredible ROI for a lot of clients. Google makes losing me again.
Yep. It's
Nothing you
we're
may have or
well, there you go. It's just like phone calls when I want to get off of them too. I get it. I'm just glad to not see you ruffling any cellophane by the microphone. But basically the idea is that PPC is the fastest way to get visibility for people who are actively searching for your product or service. And it's the fastest way to get them to your website, and it's also one of the more expensive ways. So the analogy I like to use is that PPC is like going out to dinner for tonight, but it would be less expensive if you could just go harvest something from your garden. But if you plant seeds today, it's going to take several months before it's ready for you to pull anything from it. And the garden is SEO. So it's more cost effective, but it takes longer. But PPC is immediate because, well, you're going to starve if you don't eat within 3 months. So PPC fills that gap. And if you need to implement something today, PPC is the place to start in case you need that kind of positive cash flow. All right. So, to the long term strategy, staying ahead and outranking your competitors is really the most cost effective way to do things. Um, it's one of the most important things that you can do, but it also feels like it's one of the least urgent because you got to deal with a lot of things today that matter a lot, whereas SEO could make or break your business in the next 2 or 3 years. So, to that end, you want to make sure that you stay consistent with your SEO efforts. And another way to think about SEO is kind of like the gas pedal on your car. If you let up, the car will continue to coast, but it's not going to keep moving forever. So you don't want to take your foot off for too long because you got to stay consistent with it. And it's important to continually update your content and make sure that your website stays relevant with new information that helps educate your prospective buyers and your customers and your clients on how you're addressing their needs and their concerns. So we actually have seen a lot of people choose to completely power down their SEO campaigns, and that's a great opportunity for you because SEO is all about building a relationship with Google. And a huge factor of that isn't just what you're doing, isn't just what we want you to do. It's also what your competition is investing in their strategies. So think of your competition like a headwind, and you've got to spend some oomph even to just stay in place. But as your competition powers down their efforts, there's less headwind, which allows you to get farther ahead with exactly the same effort. So that way, when your customers are searching for what it is that you do, then you're going to show up as a higher rank than you would have otherwise. So, in a way, if you can maintain or even expand your current efforts over the long term, it's going to just benefit you in a huge way. And keeping that focus on the long-term game means that as things shift back, they're never going to be normal again, right? It's always going to be different. But as the world kind of powers back up, any any advances that you make right now are just going to expand exponentially as we move farther forward. So what you do today is definitely going to help you 2 months from now, which is certainly going to help you in 6 months and a year. When you look back, you're really going to appreciate the positive effects that spooling it up is going to have for you. And if you pause everything, that's adding a zero to your average. And the longer a zero is in your average, the more difficult it's going to be to make up for it in the long haul. So take advantage of the less competition because they're pulling back. So if you can, maintain or expand, and it will serve you well. And as you might be able to see, Dan, one of our SEO strategists, talking about how as SEO professionals, the work we do today will affect the results months from now. So we kind of have to be future fortune tellers to see what's going to happen 6 months from now and be able to address it today so that you're in a better position by then. So all of that is great. But for right now, you got to figure out, okay, how do I get the word out? What am I going to be doing? And right now is a great time to make use of those social channels and any other connections you have with your customers to just engage in a two-way conversation with them. Right? It's kind of like right now, I can see the chat room, and Gabby, thank you. I appreciate the positive feedback. Got to warn you, I'm entirely susceptible to flattery. So saying that that's a great analogy, I definitely appreciate that, right? So it's a two-way conversation. So make use of that. Start conversations, actually talk with your customers and clients, and that goes a long way for them to be able to voice their concerns, what they're afraid of or worried about in doing business with you. And when you start the conversation, it's a lot easier to keep it going. So there are other ways, discounts, special offers, basically vouchers or gift cards, which is kind of a long-term investment for your customers. Hey, buy a gift card today so that we'll still be around in 2 months so that you can make use of it when that birthday rolls around. Whatever works, make it happen, right? And do some research, see what your competition's doing, see what they're doing really well, and then figure out, all right, how could we do that for ourselves? But where are they dropping the ball? Where could we fit in and do it even better? That's the gap in the market. That's our niche where we're going to excel, and then focus all of your efforts there. And again, you've got to tell people about it. Just because you decide to do it, just because you want to do it, or you've committed to doing it, doesn't mean that your prospective customers know that that's what happened. So you've got to promote it. Do that through PPC and across all of your social media platforms. And when you think you've blown up your Facebook and Instagram too much, that's almost starting to be just barely enough. Keep going, keep promoting it, and eventually people will be able to see it, right? So while all of this is happening, don't forget about your local attention as well. So if you're a service-based industry and you're a brick and mortar store or a mom and pop operation that relies on local word of mouth, local SEO is still super important because you need to show up as an open business that people can visit. So make sure that you're using local SEO strategies to optimize your website so that when somebody searches best plumber near me, Google is smart enough to know where that person is. Google is smart enough to know where your business is, if you've told Google where you are. So if you have a Google My Business account and you haven't put in those details, you're just shooting yourself in the foot by not helping Google help you help your customers find you. So that's super important. And also make sure that your customers, your clients know that you're the most convenient option because one, you're right around the corner, two, you're open at these hours. Give them all the information they need in order to do business with you. One of my friends and mentors always said, people will do business with the people it's easiest to do business with. So help Google help you. And you can build trust with the folks in your community by collecting positive feedback from your existing customers and clients. So if you've been in business for a while and you've got a healthy community of customers and clients already and you do a great job, have you asked for that feedback? Have you asked them for referrals? Have you asked them to review you on Google? Well, those Google reviews kind of do double duty. When a new client is researching your reviews, it's helping that person understand that you can be trusted, that you do a great job. It also tells Google that you can be trusted and that you do a good job. So for those local search results, Google really takes into consideration how many reviews you have, how recent the last ones were, what's the average of them. So if you haven't thought about reviews, that is a huge opportunity to boost your local visibility. And we've got whole ways of doing that. Rise Reviews, it's a whole system that we've built out mainly for us to use, and then realized, man, this works so well. We got to put this out for our clients and customers, and it works like gangbusters. So we can get into those weeds later if you're interested. And as I'm sure a lot of you have been thinking about already, you got to pivot. You got to stay relevant. You have to be able to transition and not be locked into, well, this has been working for us for 3 years. Well, the 3 years ago compared to today is a whole new universe. So you've got to innovate. You got to adapt. And that's the name of the game, is being able to deliver your service or your products to your customers in a way that works for everybody. And also a huge piece of helping build and maintain the trust of your customers is to kind of address the elephant in the room. Say, yep, there's this COVID-19 thing that we're all dealing with. It's made a huge impact. And here are the ways that we've proactively been dealing with it because your safety is top of mind. Here are our protocols. Here are the changes. Here are the things that we've been doing, right? That's funny. Thank you, Keon. I do appreciate the enthusiasm. Yeah, try to slide into DMs and it's a public message. That'll always get you in trouble. So that's why my dad always told me, Jonathan, never say in a message or a letter, never say anything privately that you wouldn't want read in a court of law. So you just learned that lesson firsthand, which is always kind of fun for me. So thank you for that, Schadenfreude. I definitely appreciate that. I know, right? Awkward. We'll fix this in post. We'll just cut that out. Anyway, as we were saying, whatever you do, pivot your business, back it up with a solid strategy and a coherent plan. Don't just try to run in a whole bunch of different directions of, all right, let's try this today and we'll try that tomorrow. Really take some time to think about it and put together a coherent approach, and that will serve you well, right? It's one of those important and urgent things, but just because it's urgent doesn't mean that you have to act too quickly, because you might be wasting those valuable resources of time, effort, energy, and money in a way that's not going to properly serve you now and in the future, right? So that's kind of to this point, which is don't have a knee-jerk reaction. Don't take any drastic measures until you've really planned it out, because panicking and freaking out about stuff isn't going to help you, and it's not going to help you help your customers and clients with the problems that you help them solve, right? So take a step back, take a breather, think about it strategically, develop your plan. And one of the best ways to develop that plan is to look at the data. If you haven't been keeping track of your metrics, you absolutely have to start. I sometimes like to say that Thrive is a data science company that wears the clothing of a marketing agency, because we like to know what's working and what's not working. And if you're not measuring it, you're not going to be able to manage it. And if you can't manage it, you can't build a strategy for it. So it all starts with good, clean data, and keeping track of that is essential. So your customers still need your business. So you've got to be in the best position to help them. And that's the only way that the world gets better. It is data, 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 as Abby is saying. Data is absolutely essential. And getting good, clean data is the first hurdle. The second hurdle is being able to understand what the data means. Being able to interpret the data is really important, because think of it like I go to the doctor and the doctor puts the x-ray on the wall and he goes, well, look at this. The data's right here. Like, I can see what you're looking at, but I have no clue what it means. Am I in the clear? Is it terminal? What's going on? So being able to help interpret that data is the essential second piece of that puzzle. All right, so I think I've hammered that home hard enough. And now, with all that free time that you have on your hands, and I do say that tongue in cheek, because somehow it seems like we aren't commuting as much. I'm home all day, every day. I'm not spending any time commuting, and somehow my free time has been evaporating. So it's super important to look at all those marketing to-dos that you've been putting off. Now's the time to run down that list and see if some of those have bumped up in importance. Because a lot of what we've seen is, like, if you're a manufacturer or a construction company or a company that mainly relied on trade shows and those in-person events for lead generation, that could have been working great for the past 50, 60 years. And I can't tell you how many business owners have been coming to us and going, yeah, we work off handshakes and referrals, but now those aren't happening. So how do we do this thing? So their digital strategy, they've been able to get by not having one before the world was different. So now they're being forced to update a 60-year-old strategy in fewer than 6 months. So there have been some companies that have pivoted early, and there's still a lot of folks who are late to the party as far as that detail is concerned. And the longer they wait to go through the list of updating their digital marketing strategies, the farther behind they're going to be. So another piece of that data is important, and interpreting it is also important puzzle, is a conversion rate optimization expert. Because you might have Google Analytics, you might have Hotjar installed, you might have a whole heap of data and go, boy, isn't this pretty? And then have no clue what to do about it, right? So, all right, this bounce rate seems high, but I don't know. Well, if you're a restaurant, actually your bounce rate might actually be good, because all the visitor was looking for was whether or not you're open or what your open times are. And making them click through for 2 pages is actually bad user experience. So not all data is created equal. So having an expert who understands the world of conversion rates is absolutely essential if you want to make sure that your website is less of a brochure and more of a proactive sales tool for you. And that's another thing that we hear all day, every day, which is, you know, our website is okay, but it doesn't need to be great. It's more like a brochure. Well, telling people information about you and when you were founded can be good to build trust, but it doesn't necessarily help your visitor understand how you are going to solve their problems. And that's really what a good salesperson does. That's what a really good sales team is all about, is helping your customers understand how you make their life and business better. And if your website doesn't do that for you, you aren't helping your customers. And that's really what it comes down to, is making sure that your website is an active sales tool and an asset, not just a passive brochure that you have to be on the phone with your customer client to walk through it. Okay, Bob, click on these services. No, it's up there on the top, right? That's poor conversions. That's poor user experience. That's a bad website. That leads to bad business. And one of the weird things about it is it's really difficult to know that you're missing out because none of those people are going to call you. So you don't know how often the phone isn't ringing because they decided against calling you because of the look of your website. So that's one of those tough things of, you don't know what you don't know, of how much business you're missing out. All right, so moving on is more research by the numbers. All right, because again, giving you anecdotes is nice, but it's really, really solid to have the actual details and information. So historically, businesses that have been more proactively focused on kind of a future forward strategy of refocusing spending during recession have outperformed businesses that make sweeping cuts. And that's according to studies that analyze recent recessions outlined in a blog post by cxl.com. So another way of putting that is buy the dip. When everybody's selling, all right, buy at the bottom. And then when all the fear, uncertainty, and doubt is gone and everybody comes rushing back, you've got an even bigger piece of the market. And one study found that what happened during a recession greatly affected a company's performance after the recession. And the study found that successful leaders trading lower short-term profitability for long-term gain refocused rather than cut spending. And that's really just a fancy way of saying the longer game you can play to maintain focus on the far future and decide today to benefit a time horizon of 6 or 12 months from now, instead of having to address triage today and tomorrow, is always going to treat your business better for long-term success rather than trying to run around in circles dealing with the fires that happened right now. So the Harvard Business Review study of 4,700 public companies analyzed 3 years before, during, and after recessions. And the study identified the percentage of companies that outperformed their rivals, which breaks down to 21% of businesses opted for a prevention focus, which means kind of more cost cutting. We got to withdraw, we got to draw in, we got to conserve. And 37% chose more of a progressive focus, which is more of a, this too shall pass, we can maintain, it'll be good, and we'll be out the gate even better once it transitions back to a more productive dynamic. And a Harvard study found that firms that cut costs faster and deeper than rivals don't necessarily flourish. They have the lowest profitability of pulling ahead of the competition when times get better. So even though it might appear that cutting costs is the only strategy you have, it might be at the long-term possibility of the viability of your company, right? So cutting costs deeper, faster, and more aggressively than your competition, you think that you're going to be better suited to weather the storm, but really it's kind of starving your business and then expecting it to win gold at the Olympics. It's to just mash up a couple metaphors, but I think you get the idea. All right. So I have been going on just nonstop, just giving you as much drinking from the fire hose energy as I can. But I genuinely do want to hear from you guys. If any of this is kind of like a wait, how does this apply to me? Sounds good, Jonathan, but my situation is different. I doubt it, but I would love to hear your perspective about it so that we can give you some insight and guidance from one, our clients that we've seen been able to successfully transition, and two, be able to answer questions that we see every day from business owners who are coming to us for insight and guidance. So if in the chat you can put A, B, C, or D, that'll kind of help me feel out what flavor response you got, and then we'll be able to do that. So I'm just going to take about 20-30 seconds here to breathe in and check the chat and see if there's anything that I missed there. Awesome. Kathy, thank you so much. Just put in D, which I'm decoding with my secret decoder ring, which says that you're already a Happy Thrive client. So one, thank you so much for being a client. And two, thanks for taking the time to spend your lunch listening to me drone on. Hopefully a lot of this already makes sense. Hopefully a lot of this is what we've been helping you do. So I appreciate your trust, your continued business, and also it's just good to see that you're here. And also that goes for you too, Olivia and Cindy. Thanks for the three of you. Boy, I promise you they're not all paid shills. The rest of you, if you're not already a client, feel free to chime in. And really that first one, let's schedule a consultation. One of the things that I love about being here at Thrive is that from the top down, Matt, the guy who started this whole company, we've all been focused on how do we help our clients? And if we can't help them, how can we get them pointed in the right direction? So it's not a heavy sales call. It's not a heavy push. It's more of a, here's your situation. Here's how we could help you. And if not, here's where you should go for the best opportunity for your business. So if you just want to spend 45 minutes talking about the problems you got with your marketing and frustration of trying a Facebook boost here and there and trying to understand why that's not working, feel free to schedule a call. Like that's literally what we're here for, is to help you imagine a different future for your business. And it's just that the best way we know how to do that is through digital marketing, because it's more and more important as we go through. So Gabe, I see that you just raised your hand. I appreciate that. And we're going to remove that person. Yep. Boop, there we go. So that's nice that there's no live monitoring. So yay, the internet means that it could be anybody, anywhere. So wonderful. Ugh, some people's kids have no manners. All right. Let's just push that up the screen there. That's you can tell I've done some live streams before. And good. All right, so Abby, you've been a Thrive client in the past. Love the helpful information, but I have to pick C. No thanks. Work for a similar agency. Tried working for Thrive. Abby, are you doing corporate espionage? How dare you? It's all good. It's all good. There's enough business in the world, and I wish there were more high quality agencies out there making a good name for digital marketing. So the better business and job you do, Abby, the better it is for everybody, because man, it really soaps my skillet when we got so many people who claim to be SEO experts and really they got a laptop and an internet connection, and it just eats me up inside. So, all right, we got a Wendell who's saying you'd like more information to review at a later time. Awesome. So we'll get in touch with you, Wendell. If you want to, just send me an email at jonathan@thriveagency.com. I'll make sure to get you in touch with our team that schedules all that stuff out. They're fantastic at wrangling your calendar and finding open times and that kind of thing. So I'll make sure I can't talk and type. Whoop, I just put that privately. Here, let me put this here. There we go. So just use that email, and then I'll get you connected to our scheduling team, and we'll get you connected to, we got a whole bunch of marketing consultants, and we'll find an open slot for you. So that's pretty much it for me. I'm going to check my calendar to see what we got going, make sure we're not going to go over. So we got about 8 more minutes of the hour, and I don't want to cut out before anybody has had the opportunity to get the gumption up to raise their hand or ask a question. So go for it. All right. I wish I had some bossa nova music in the background or something. That would have been nice. I'll have that set up for next time for sure. So yeah, if there's anybody else or you have a question or a comment about your own particular situation, yeah, and we will be sending everybody a recording of this. So if you had to hop off early, one, you won't be able to hear these words right now live as I'm saying them, but we'll get it to you as we can. And also the slides, we know there's a lot of information on those slides, and some of it we might have skipped over and didn't cover it. So yeah, you don't need to be taking a lot of notes right now and scribbling as quickly as you can. So we'll be getting all those details to you. Cool. So that's pretty much it. That's all we got. Oh, it's on the other screen. There it is. Wendell, there you go. Got it. So now I see the Q&A. That's where I see. Okay, so thank you, Wendell. I see that there, and hopefully that will work for you. So let me type an answer. If my hands could type agency, that would be awesome. There we go. I just sent it to you privately, even though I put my email publicly, but that's the easiest way to do that. All right. Can your agency handle promotions for products? Well, it depends. So basically, it's all about marketing, is telling people about what it is that you do. And if your product is ready, or even if it's not, there are still effective strategies to making sure that your product finds its audience. One of the most common approaches that we see is that, we're going to wait until this thing is ready, then we will start marketing it, then we will start promoting it. But that's exactly backwards. Really, one of the most effective ways to do things is to build your audience first. And even if your product isn't ready yet, you can still build a community around it through a Facebook group, through an email list, or through email, right? That's it. So doing social media marketing for new products is definitely a great way to go, because PPC, Google search, is great for people who are already searching for your type of product or service. But if it's a brand new type of product or it isn't out yet, well, you have to go tell them about it. And doing paid advertising on social media is the most proactive way that you can put your message in front of your ideal potential customers and clients. I often think of it like paid social media marketing is like a hyper customized billboard that's only shown to exactly the right person at exactly the right time in exactly the right way. So your strategy should reflect where you are in the development process. So promote the development of the product. Think of it like in Kickstarter, right? Which is the product doesn't even exist yet, but you got to go tell people about it. They're jazzed about it. They back the project, and their enthusiasm makes it real. Now, even if you're a thing that's kind of like software as a business to business product, so you're not selling an actual physical widget, you're not manufacturing a thing like a watch or a necklace, you're doing a software that's only for businesses to businesses, yeah, you can still do that. It's a social media platform called LinkedIn. That's still a social media platform. Even though it's entirely focused on business, it is incredibly valuable, especially for business to business models. So you need to talk to the director of sales. You need to talk to the director of marketing. They put those details in there, and then LinkedIn allows you to target exactly those business titles so your message gets to exactly the right person. So when we're talking about social media, we're not just talking about using it like my mom uses it and posting to your wall. It's about making sure that you're on the right platform for your product or service and then doing that. Now, if your rollout is in 12 weeks, then you've you've got some work ahead of you, right? So basically, getting stuff done immediately is kind of like that knee-jerk reaction. There's this awesome video on YouTube. Search for it, and it's the 10-minute, the 5-minute, and the 1-minute Spider-Man drawing. So the more time you have to prepare, to do your research, to plan your strategy, the better situated you're going to be for success. So our process of how we do things is once you're on board as a client, the first 10 business days of what we're doing is having your social media strategist doing that research and then be able to see what the competition is, see what the market's like, see what your situation is, and then build your custom strategy for the next 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days out. That way, you've planned out far enough ahead so that you've got your game plan and then you work it. As you start getting data coming back, you continually adjust and tweak your strategy. So, to use the car analogy, your strategy is the steering wheel, and you make continuous small adjustments instead of one big adjustment 4 weeks from now, right? So, Wendell, you're asking if I know Michael Weiss. Absolutely do. We've known each other for quite a while. He's one of my favorite people on the planet. And if you know Michael Weiss and you like him, I'm pretty sure that we're going to like each other as well. So hopefully that answers some of your questions and gives you kind of a good idea of how this all plugs into different situations. Well, we are officially 1 minute after the hour. I hate going over, but we did start at 5 minutes after the hour. So I'm going to give you guys about another 4 minutes before we wrap things up and then call it good. So if you've been waiting for the right time to ask a question, that time was about 20 minutes ago, but the only time you have is right now left to you. So go ahead, put it in there in the question and answer or in the chat, and we'll see it there. All right, Cindy, I see that you raised your hand. Hopefully it's not a joke or a prank. It's actually a legit question. So go ahead, lay it on me. Cindy was asking about a webinar regarding social media usage. This is the first one that I've been doing. So I'm going to put a pin in that and tell you, let me go find out so I don't tell you the wrong thing. If so, we'll let you know. If not, we'll let you know as well. And if I hear in my other ear from our elves behind the scenes who's running the show that we do, I'll let you know as soon as I do. All right, we're at 3 minutes after the hour. That means we got 2 minutes left for any questions, comments, concerns. All right, I believe it's about time for me to sign off. First, thank you so much, everybody who's still on the call, and even the folks that hopped off early. Thank you so much for spending your time with me and Ashton in the short while we got to hang out a little bit. So thank you so much. And if you have any other questions, hit me up at jonathan@thriveagency.com. I'll try to make sure that your message gets to the right person, or just go to thriveagency.com and use the schedule quote button there. That will get the conversation started with our scheduling team, and they'll get you connected to any one of our marketing consultants that we've got on the clock for you. So, Wendell, one last thing before we go. Send Mike an email. Email is often the best way to get a hold of us. Asynchronous communication is awesome. So if you call, we're almost always on video chats like this, and it's difficult to pick up the phone. So that way, send him an email, and that will land in his inbox. So that's pretty much everything we got. Thank you so much, everybody. And again, we'll send you the slides. We'll send you the info and details. Thanks again. And here's to a bright tomorrow. That's it for me, everybody. My name is Jonathan Pritchard, marketing consultant here at thriveagency.com. Have a good afternoon.